Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 29th episode of the Daily Attorney Podcast. I am your host, Marie-Eve Nadine Jean-Baptiste. And as you know, the Daily Attorney Podcast is where we talk to women attorneys all over the U.S. who are just amazing at what they do inside and outside the legal profession. So our guest today is Melaney LaGrone of LaGrone Law. It is a criminal and immigration law firm based out of Georgia. She is a real and down-to-earth human who helps real people fight for their lives and their status in this country. She understands what is required to keep a family together and has dedicated her career to doing just that. In fact, her mission is to keep families together. She is a former police officer and former prosecutor, and she knows just how officers and prosecutors work together. Some time ago, she transitioned from prosecuting crimes to defending the men accused of them, because she believes she has a duty to do her part in keeping families together and making sure that fairness and justice applies to all men. Please help me welcome Miss Melaney LaGrone, also known as Attorney Mel on social media and many, many platforms. As I told you, I had to cut your bio down just, by a few sentences because I really wanted to get in and just be able to talk to you about the many, many amazing things that you've done. And I know one of them is opening your law firm in St. Thomas. So congratulations on that. I know that could not have been easy, right? So today I wanted to have you on because I wanted to talk about just your journey from, just being a prosecutor and being a police officer, transitioning into the law. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to finally see you. And thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Same. Same. So can you, yes, please. And I do apologize, everyone. I'm having a bit of computer internet issues, so we might be on a lag. But yes, please walk us through your journey. It's a very interesting one.
Girl, it's a long journey. Okay, so short and sweet, though. I am originally from Michigan. I was born and raised in Grand Rapids, moved to Detroit to attend University of Detroit for college. And then I ended up staying there. When I graduated from college, I wanted to go to the federal government, like the U.S. Marshals. I wanted to go arrest fugitives. Like I had that all in my mind. That's what I wanted to do. And then there was a hiring freeze the year that I graduated. So of course I was like, well, I got to make some money. I got to pay back these loans. So I had met a lot of police officers along the way because I lived in the heart of the city and my degree was in criminal justice. And they were like, hey, we're hiring. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'll go do it. I didn't even think I thought twice about it. I just was like, okay. And so I ended up on the Detroit Police Department. I worked, I want to say it was about 5-6 years in Gang Squad, which was the special enforcement section, and then a couple years at narcotics. After I finished that, because I was trying to figure out what was my next move, I had gotten married and life had kind of, took a turn. So I went back to school. I actually went to Central Michigan for my master's in business administration. And then I was like, yeah, business isn't for me. That's not what I want to do. And I kind of just took a few years just to kind of figure things out. And then ultimately, and people always joke when I say this, but I thought about going to law school when I was married, but at the time, my husband at the time, who's now my ex-husband, he's like, it's too expensive. We can't really afford that, things like that. Well, ironically, when I got a divorce, I literally started law school probably like a few months later. So, but by then, I was in my late 30s. I had to work. I could not go to a school where, they're like, you got to take your first year off, your second year off, stuff like that. Cause I'm like, how are my bills going to get paid? So I attended Thomas M. Cooley Law School. And I hate that Thomas M. Cooley gets a bad rep because they really gave me the opportunity that I needed. I worked 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. And then I drove Friday night to Lansing, which is about an hour and a half or so away from Detroit, stayed in a hotel for the weekend, took classes on the weekend, drove back Sunday, and then went back to work on Monday. And I did that for my whole entire first year. So that was fun. But on the way, I met some great people because I ended up being able to carpool with, an attorney who's now one of my really good friends. So then that was it. My second year, I think it was my second year, mid-second year, I was able to kind of transfer to like Auburn Hills, which was closer to Detroit. So then, the working wasn't so bad, but I still was taking classes on the weekends, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And when I graduated, I originally got hired at a medical malpractice defense firm. And the crazy story is I interned at the firm, loved my professor. She actually was an associate, or almost, I think she was a partner at the firm. And so she got me an intern there. And so I started off there, which was really just different from my background, but I enjoyed it. I wasn't too keen on billable hours, things like that. And I kind of wanted a little bit more flexibility in my life in order to kind of have my own time and do things my own way. So then I started my solo practice in Detroit, doing criminal defense. And so it was strictly criminal defense there, which was great because I knew, a lot of the judges, I knew the police officers, I knew other attorneys. So it was a really good networking opportunity. But then in 2012, I ended up getting a divorce, and this was actually from my second husband. And I was like, what am I going to do now? I'm in Michigan. My whole family has moved to Georgia throughout the years. They just loved it down there. So I was like, well, I guess I'll move to Georgia and just figure this out. So I moved to Georgia late 2012. I got barred in Georgia in 2014. Started at the prosecutor, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office in 2015, I think. Because for me, I kind of thought, I'm in a whole new city. I'm in a whole new state. I don't have the network to have a solo practice. There's some bomb attorneys down here. How can I compete? Like, I was feeling all of that, I think kind of like that imposter syndrome stuff going on. So I'm like, well, you know what? What do you know, girl? You know criminal law. So get hired at the prosecutor's office, get into trial, have a good time and learn a lot and then see where things go. So that's actually what happened. I was only there for about a year and a half and then ended up going back out on my own with my own practice.
That is definitely quite the journey. That is 100% quite the journey. I wrote down so many really, cool nuggets in your story. The first thing I definitely wanted to, ask you is, do you miss Detroit?
I do. I really do. Detroit is home for me. I think I haven't been back. It's been about maybe 3-4 years, maybe. Mm-hmm. I was going regularly, maybe every year. And then, of course, COVID hit and all that type of stuff. So I miss it. And let me tell you, it looks awesome. They are building it up so just fabulously. I can't wait to go back and hang out.
That is awesome. I actually lived in Lansing for a year. And I tell everyone, I actually miss Michigan. Mm-hmm. There's just something about it I don't think anyone really understands until you've actually lived there. It's a beautiful place, very serene. I remember when I had my apartment, there was like $560 for a 1-bedroom apartment. That was mind-blowing, right? And when I went there, I actually I'm an immigrant, so I went to renew my green card in Detroit. And I took some time, I hung out by the water. My only regret is not seeing Canada and not going to Illinois, because I was so close. And then I left Michigan. I'm like, what did I just do? I could have just hopped on a bus.
Yeah. And Canada used to be like our weekend, what would you do on the weekend? Sometimes you just cross over the bridge or under the tunnel and you're in Canada and you can experience a whole other world.
Yes, I will never forget it. It was, that water, that river that separates Michigan. I think that was Lake, is it Lake Michigan? I'm sorry, I'm botching this. That separates Canada and Michigan. It's just overlooking. You can see the entire, it's just such a breathtaking.
Yeah, you can see the downtown Renaissance and then look over the water, and that's Canada.
Yes. Yeah. That is okay. Okay. As far as the U.S. Marshal's Office, that's quite a feat. If you had a chance to do things over again, would you have applied?
You know what? I probably would have.
Okay.
Because, they had they have an age limit. And so when I say, life happens and, marriage, and then you get older and then you get settled and things like that. But I don't want to say, if things had worked out differently, then I would have definitely applied. And I don't know if it was because I watched too many movies. I don't know why, but for some reason that has always stuck in my head of what I wanted to do. But don't get me wrong. I would not change my life for nothing in the world, my experiences, because I really do think the roundabout way that I got to where I am is where I'm supposed to be. So.
I hear that. Everything happens as it should, right? So did you enjoy working with, the Detroit police? I know police officers, unfortunately, get a bad rap. And you were kind of on the opposite side, like in the trenches. Did you enjoy that time of your life? I'm sure you learned a lot, but was it memorable for you?
Absolutely. I learned a lot. I had to grow up really fast because Grand Rapids is not necessarily a small town because it's actually the second largest to Detroit, but it's a very small town feel. So coming from there and then coming to Detroit, it's like a whole different world. And then joining the police department there, a whole nother world. So, I grew up fast. I had a lot of learning, I have had a lot of experiences, good and bad, but for the most part, all good. The officers that I worked with were top notch all the time, phenomenal. Like we are all still cool to this day. And it was an experience that I would not change at all. Because I think it really does make me who I am today.
And it gives you a very different introspective look because now you're on the other side, right? So, and you're representing individuals, especially men. And I'm thinking in large part, your clients are men. I think statistics show that not many, when compared to men, not many women commit crimes. Is that correct?
It's usually right. It's usually higher men. And then, of course, because I am African-American, I'm Black, and I always see the struggle that's going on. I chose to represent Black men because they get such a bad rep, and it's not all true. And I always tell people, just like the police department, lawyers, people, humans in general, there's bad in every field, in every community, in everything, but it doesn't make the whole race or the whole community bad in and of itself.
I mean, it's the same thing with police officers, judges, attorneys. We tend to get a bad rap, and that's in large part why I created the show, because I want to show people that, we're not all about money and status, right? We have families. Life happens to us, and we're human. And so it just gives you a little peek inside the person. So that way you can see them as a human being versus as just another attorney, just another police officer, just another brown man. I absolutely love that. As far as, and I had a question to ask you, and I'll just return to it, but I wanted to talk just a little bit about the MBA experience that you have. I think that's something that most attorneys don't have. And as I tell all of my guests, and they all agree, being an attorney and being a business owner, two different things. Two different things.
That's a whole nother story, a whole nother hour that we could talk.
Literally, yes. And that's what I was telling you. I said, there's so much to talk about, with my guests that we can't compartmentalize it in 30 minutes. So I definitely need to have like all of my guests back, including you. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, do you think that even the small amount of time that you spent in MBA school, do you think that it really helped you when you opened your business? I think I know the answer to that.
No shade to college or courses or anything like that. But I think it's like anything else. Just like law, just like law school. Did law school really prepare us to come out in the world and be an attorney?
No.
So
no.
I think what it did is it gave me a high level, like I knew what a financial report was, but don't ask me how to read it.
Right. Yeah, I remember the first time I sat down with my accountant and I saw a PL statement. I didn't even want to ask her how to read it because I'm just like, you have like 8 degrees. How do you not know how to read a PL statement? But I don't know. None of my degrees are in finance, right? So I don't do anything pertaining to finance. So, I mean, I know now. And some of my clients are business owners, so that helps too, to have that knowledge. I agree with you. They tried their best. It's funny. I do want to tell you a little bit of a story. So my son, MJ, I remember one time I was having a conversation with him, and he's a typical boy. And he goes, I don't understand. Why can't I just, quit school and just learn everything on YouTube? What are you talking about? And he's like, well, I mean, I can just, the internet teaches us. And I said to him, but you still have to learn. You still have to sit down. You have to study. You have to understand what words and things mean. And he's like, yeah, but it's free on the internet. And I did not want to tell him that I think he may be onto something. And a lot of other people, such as like Gary Vee, they talk about that. They talk about how the internet has become such a huge monolith, and individuals such as you and myself who have not only life experience, but school experience, our knowledge is already here. If we're teaching people, the idea is, well, I don't have to pay a college $50,000 a year to tell me this stuff. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see maybe in the next 30 years where higher education goes. I think this is very interesting.
Or how often have you gotten the, well, I don't have to pay you to represent me because, I can get my information from Google.
Yeah. And I mean, you can go ahead by all means necessary, but I'm not fixing it. And if I do, I'm charging you twice.
Exactly.
Charging you twice the amount. Exactly. Because and there is a huge part of what we do that is not something you can Google. It just isn't, and I didn't really understand that until I became a lawyer. And I saw the parts that we have to interweave that you just can't. Google Scholar, you can scholar as much as you want. It's not going to help you,
Exactly. And that's the thing. And it's so hard sometimes to try to get your clients or your potential clients to understand that, because Google, it's fact-based. So it's very this, and this. Okay, but now you have to apply it to your situation.
There you
go. It doesn't apply.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And
or it's going to take a twist and a turn.
Yep. And you have to make a persuasive argument. A persuasive argument is not something you can learn on Google. It requires case law research. It requires statute-based research. It requires secondary sources. And a lot of our clients don't understand that. It's easy for us now because we've had 5, 10, 15, 20 years to hone in on that one skill out of 1,000, so it's tough. And all of my guests say the same thing, that, there's this consistency when it comes to people wanting to do things themselves. Certain things you can, if it's a name change petition, not a big deal. But if you're looking at custody or a marijuana charge or something.
Right. Or immigration. Like, no.
Immigration. I always tell the same story. Do you know I found out I was a U.S. citizen in law school? I didn't even know. Yeah, I did not even know. It was so funny. It's just crazy. But immigration for obvious reasons is near and dear to my heart. I love immigration attorneys. I think you guys are definitely saving the world, because I think that we would be a very boring country if we didn't have people from all over the world to contribute, in one part or another. So speaking of which, I do want to ask you that. I understand the criminal law aspect, but why immigration law?
So, funny story. I actually took an immigration class in law school. Loved it. Was just very, very interested in it. But like anything that you don't know, you're really fearful of getting into it. So I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way that I can go and learn immigration and be able to just do immigration. And I had absolutely 100% like, no, I didn't want to necessarily work for a firm. Like that wasn't my goal after law school. So I said, okay, well, of course, what's your background? Your background is criminal. So that's what you get into. Yeah. Well, once I got to Atlanta, and I did start having a lot more criminal cases with non-US citizens, but also too, and you definitely have to know how to deal with them. And that's where I get the whole crimmigration. And I speak, at our AILA, our American Immigration Lawyers Association, like national conventions on crimmigration and how to analyze, criminal cases, immigration consequences, things like that. But for me too, it was one of those really heartfelt things because I felt like brown men were being treated like us back in the day. Like, so slavery back in the day, they were now like the new slavery. And then of course, you get the president that we had in the office and it just took everything to the left. And I'm like, that's just not right. I mean, I know the world isn't fair, but I felt like, okay, that's where I needed to be, dealing with and handling our Black and brown men and making sure that they stay out of the courts and they stay in the country. And so that's how, and I just dove in and learned immigration. I actually did some contract work for a crimmigration attorney firm that's in Georgia. She's a fabulous, fabulous attorney. And she kind of helped me and taught me the ropes and things like that. So I was able to, once I started my own firm, I was able to do both type of practices.
That's good that you had a mentor. I know a lot of times, some of our mentors are severely busy and some of the people we look up to are very busy. So it's not always, possible to find someone that can mentor you. So that's amazing you have that. A good friend of mine, Sherry Hoydra, she actually does work with ILA. So I'm not sure if you know her. She's based in Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah.
The name doesn't sound familiar, but maybe her face.
Yes.
Because immigration is a very small, close-knit group of attorneys, and we're all in the same groups and things like that. So
yeah. I figured she calls it crimmigration. Also, she does both criminal law and immigration as well as family law. Criminal law. I remember the exact the exact moment that I knew that I could not do it. I'm a very sympathetic, emphatic person. And that's a good thing, right? For criminal attorneys. But I'm the attorney that is boo-hooing over every case. And I want to know what happened when you were younger. How did you get here? And sometimes those are mitigating factors at sentencing, right? But they're not the best things to focus on when you're trying to work the case. So I realized a long time ago, I can't do criminal law. I can't be a judge. If I'm a judge, everybody's going free. Everyone's doing community service and we're all going to therapy. Okay. that's not
kumbaya. We're standing around and we're singing.
That's literally what I say. I'm like, let's kumbaya this and let's work it out. I am a very cohesive person. And I get that our justice system doesn't usually allow for people like me. So I stay in my lane and I'm out of it. It's also in large part why I do not practice family law anymore, because I'm more interested in helping people through their emotional traumas. And they're not. They want to hurt each other. So I can't. Immigration is another one for me. It's too close to home. So I was like, you know what, this is definitely not an area that I think, would be a good fit. So I settled on estates and trusts in taxation, which gives me, that opportunity to be sympathetic and at the, on the other side to actually help people like you protect their families, protect their legacies and stuff like that. But I do want to ask you about, you mentioned that, you've had 2 divorces. Do you think that I see, and I know personally, the toll that being an attorney, being a law student, and being a high achiever, because we're high achievers, that's just who we are. I see the toll that it takes on, your families and your friends and stuff like that. Do you think that in large part, did having your own practice and being an attorney have an impact on your actual life?
I would say no. For the most part, no.
Okay.
So because my first husband actually we were both police officers together. So that was kind of, our background and what happened. And then my second husband, I ended up meeting while I was in law school. He wasn't a lawyer. He was actually working on a doctorate degree, but we ended up meeting there. So life happened, but I don't think it had anything. Well, I know for a fact it didn't have anything to do with me being a lawyer whatsoever. Other issues.
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah, because I know sometimes being an attorney, not everyone can understand.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry, there's a lag.
And they don't. And I think for the most part, I think sometimes it affects maybe like your friendships. With friends and making sure that you have like those tight knit friends all the time and things like that, because I think you move apart. So friends that were friends with you, before, may not be your friend now just because you have that difference in, what you do every day and who you kind of sort of maybe even should maybe hang out with, things like that. But for the most part, I don't think it has affected, anything. And I have to comment on something that you said about criminal law, immigration law, and family law. So for me, I think being a police officer totally helped in the criminal and immigration part, because I'm very just like this. Like and sometimes it's not good for my family life, or my personal life, because I'm very almost like non-emotional. So I'm very just like, look, we need to get this done. This is what's going on. And so I don't want to hear anything else. This is what's needed. I tried family law and I was like, oh no, not my cup of tea.
Yep.
Ain't gonna do it. Yep. Like, I'm good, because y'all doing all of this stuff, and
family law has it's a different beast. It's a different type of person that can do it. A lot of my friends that do family law, I ask them, like, does it affect your personal life? Like, do you kind of look at your spouse or anyone that you're dating in a very skeptical manner? And they say no. And they're all married. Everyone is married. Everyone has been married for 20, 30 years. And I'm like, how? Because sitting with clients and you're working on these things, it just makes you look at things a little differently. But I tell people all the time, if I get married, this will be the easiest divorce you will have to go through. Take it all. I'm not fighting over anything. I've earned it before. I'm going to earn it again.
Matter of fact, I'm going to write it all up for you.
So it's sign on the dotted line. Before you do leave, exactly. I'm not fighting over it. I'm just not. But I did want to ask you, and kudos to you for, going to another state and just changing everything and saying, well, I know I don't know anybody here, so I'm going to get into a place where I can make those connections. I did it completely opposite. I was like, you know what? I'm not waiting for any opportunity. I can't. Like, I have a kid. I got some bills to pay. Every day I'm looking outside waiting for Nissan to go get their car. I'm just not. I was like, I need to open up my own firm. And that is what I did. So I don't have, the firm. I have the grind day in, day out. It took me like 6 months to earn, anything, because having a network really does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. So definitely kudos to you for doing it very opposite, and clearly, it worked out. So, but before you go, I really wanted to talk about, your change from being in Georgia to St. Thomas, which is such a beautiful, beautiful place. How are you acclimating? How are your clients acclimating? I'm sure they miss you.
So one thing about it is I'm not in St. Thomas full time yet. The goal is to be in St. Thomas full time, but I'm sure I will still have my office in Georgia. I actually have a physical office in Lawrenceville. I love the building that I'm in. I love all the people. The rent is awesome. Like I probably will never give that office up. So I really just fly back and I really do just fly back and forth. One thing that I noticed down in the islands is they want to see you. They want to, feel you, touch you. They want you to be in front of them. So in order for me to establish myself down here, I felt the need that I need to be, in St. Thomas, kind of sort of regularly. And then once it kind of, maybe once I established myself, I established my name, things like that, then I might not have to be, in St. Thomas as much or something. So I'm still working out all the logistics and kind of just rolling with the punches and playing things by ear.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. But it's been an awesome experience. I've met so many just wonderful people. Like St. Thomas, the islands, like everyone is just nice. It's like just nice. And they are welcoming.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I
just be careful with the food, because before you leave, I promise you will gain some weight.
I have heard that. Yes. I tend to walk a lot up the hills.
Okay. Okay. We don't play. We like to eat in the islands. Right. But thank you again, Attorney Mel, for just being here with us. I do apologize for the huge lag with the internet. For some reason, my computer is hating me this entire week. But nevertheless, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I hope to have you on, sometime in the future where we can just dive into your practice in St. Thomas. Because I've always wondered, what it's like practicing on an island, apart from perfect weather all the time. Lucky you. It's nice to hear about the differences, between how they practice, how you practice in Georgia versus how you practice on an island. So thank you again. And if anybody wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to reach you?
I am on all social media at LaGrone Law. You can also reach me at 678-250-5449. Or if you are in the Virgin Islands, it's 340-626-0778. I love
it. And is there an email address that anyone can use to get a hold of you?
Sure. It's info. So it's info@lagronelaw.com.
Thank you again, Attorney Mel, for being here, and, continue fighting the good fight, please. The insights that you have, and you're welcome, the insight that you have and just the inside knowledge that you have, I think makes you an amazing crimmigration, attorney, and any client that works with you, I'm sure, is very lucky to have you. So thank you again for being here. I am your host, Marie Eve Nadine Jean-Baptiste. Thank you again, everyone. Thanks for staying through the lovely internet lags. And I am the owner and CEO of the St. Eve Law Firm located here in Towson, Maryland. Everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you.